I guess I can play devil's advocate on one of these things.
Devil it up. Devil it up.
Okay.
I am Doug Friedman.
I am Kenzie Janest.
And this is Your Mental Breakdown,
the podcast.
With a couple of therapists talking about a couple of embarrassing things.
Okay, so.
you were hot for this one.
Well, I have multiple, obviously. I mean, I could do this every week, Doug, but something happened this week that really, and I need to ask Laura, another associate in our practice, if she actually noticed this because, okay, here's the thing. This is the embarrassing part. I have been trying. So I do client. I'm beating around the bush here. Oh, that's another embarrassing thing. For the longest time, I thought it was feeding around the bush. And my friends still make fun of me because I have just recently learned within the last 6 months, Doug, that it is beating around the bush. Okay, so how's that for embarrassing? And I shouldn't have said that. Please refer your clients to me for therapy. Okay, so I've been trying this thing this week. Mm-hmm. No, not even this week. I have been trying this thing for weeks now. I see clients virtually and in person, right?
Right.
And I'm usually only in the office a couple days a week. So I
decided not to wear pants?
No, so here's the thing. Okay. Yeah, I came in Winnie the Poohing it. Donald Duck in it. No.
I was talking virtually, not in the office.
Oh, no, I'm talking both.
Okay.
I think it's worse. No, it's not worse, but it is bad. It's maybe not that bad. I need to get your opinion on this because I haven't admitted it to anybody except for Troy, my partner. So I often forget what I was wearing the previous week, right?
Okay.
So I decided, you know what? I'm just going to wear the same thing every week for every session so that the next week I wear a different outfit.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay, I wore that outfit last week. Like I wore this cardigan last 100%. Week and now I'm wearing this cardigan.
I told you that when we were first starting out.
What do you mean?
That was my wife's big thing, like her hack on Therwear.
Well, yeah. Right? Wait, that was her hack though, to wear the same thing every week?
Not every week.
Okay, well.
The way you're phrasing it. Every day of the week, you wear the same outfit.
Yes.
So that no client that you see twice in a week, like you don't really do that. Right.
Well, yeah.
Right. So you don't need hundreds of outfits. You just need 50 outfits.
Because I'm a minimalist in my wardrobe, I would say. Maybe
Clearly.
Not super, thank you. Not super minimalist, but when it comes to my therapy garb, I don't have a lot.
Wait, would minimalist clothing be like short shorts?
Okay. Yeah, I wear a bikini every time. No. But here's the thing. I was only thinking about clients. I wasn't thinking about other people in the building. And so I have since run into people this week wearing the exact same outfit, including socks, the same socks.
The same socks?
Yeah, this is the embarrassing part, Doug. Same shoes, same socks, not the same underwear. Don't get it twisted here, okay, people? But the same everything else. And I ran into the same person a few times. Shout out to Laura. Did you notice? Because I am a little embarrassed.
I would spin that completely around the other way and flip it, smack it, rub it down. Oh no. It's a Bill Biv DeVoe. Smack it up, flip it, rub it down. Oh no. No, okay. Anyway.
And so you're going to reframe this for me.
Absolutely reframe this as, yes, you saw me wearing the same outfit all week because guess what? I have this incredible hack where I don't have to change my outfit every single day. And I don't have to remember. I mean, I would do that because I would wear a different button-up shirt and wearing a different shirt every day.
It's too much.
It's way too much.
I can't remember.
Same.
So then you'll end up wearing the same thing.
Right.
Yeah.
And even so, there were clients that I would see once a week and not remember oh man, this is my Tuesday shirt. I already saw this Tuesday client.
Yeah.
So the hack. And for me, it was my wife coming up with just wear the same thing all week.
Okay.
And then change the next week.
Yeah.
So say it loud, say it proud in the office. I'm wearing the same thing. I got this great hack.
Hey everyone, look at me. I'm wearing the same outfit. Yeah, no. Okay. Thank you, Doug. See, this is why you're a therapist.
Except for the socks. That might be
the socks is gross.
Problem.
Okay, but it was like a Tuesday, Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like back-to-back days. So that is my defense. That I slept in the socks and then I wore them again.
So you were doing the walk of shame to the office?
I usually don't do that, but it did happen this week. And I think that is the pinnacle of the embarrassment because I was like, oh, now I just look gross.
Well, that one, I would say yes.
Yes.
Wearing the same socks 2 days in a row.
Really? You never do that?
I wouldn't say never. I might have done that if I only wore the socks like very briefly in the house or something. Then I could wear the socks
I only wore it for, a couple hours at the office. And then
I have actually had a pair of socks that lived at the office. So if I was wearing some days I would go out for like a hike or a walk with Beckett before I went into the work.
Okay.
And I might get my socks and shoes a little wet.
Yes.
I have shoes that live in the office.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I actually wanted to have like slippers, I want bunny slippers. And I could just put on my bunny slippers in the office now, but I don't want to be.
I'm a quirky therapist. Yeah. I wear bunny slippers.
That's why I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. But I did have a change of socks just in case mine got wet.
That's smart.
I sometimes would just throw them on for a session or two and then throw them back. I wouldn't always take them home and wash them. So that's different than wearing the same pair of socks 2 days in a row.
So let's forget about the sock part. Let's go back to when you were praising me for doing this and that this is a really good idea.
I think it's fantastic.
That made me feel good.
Speaking of good ideas, you had a good question.
Oh, I do. Because I hear this one a lot on ye old Reddit forums. Right? Threads, whatever you call them, posts. How do I know when I should break up with my therapist?
Ooh.
Doug.
Wait.
Because I don't know the answer.
Are you breaking up with me, Kenzie?
You're not my therapist, Doug.
Oh, that's true.
That would be weird. That would be dual relationships. Right. Unethical.
So breaking up with your therapist. That's interesting phrasing.
I know. Oh my gosh, you're telling me because I've had moments of freaking out and wanting to break up with my therapist or break up with a client. And everyone's always like, why are you using that language? That implies, whoa. This is like.
It implies what? The whoa. What? That we were enmeshed and now we need to back off a little bit?
Yeah, like way too much of like an anxious attachment.
Right. So right there, here's my thing is if you're feeling and thinking that you should or might want to break up with your therapist, bring that to your therapist.
Right, which is what I've done. And we've had some great conversations because of it. Are there some telltale maybe signs or red flags that your therapist is not
the right fit
for you?
Or thoroughly incompetent.
And unethical and should be jailed. Kidding on that last part.
Sort of. I mean, there are some therapists that are ridiculously unethical. We read about them.
Read the back of the Camp magazine.
Right.
That's always fun.
We get the newsletter for people, and sometimes they will tell us about the inappropriate things that therapists do that are just, to me,
so many DUIs.
Horrifying. It's ridiculous. I mean, the DIYs?
The DIYs.
Yeah, never do it yourself.
No.
The DUIs, right?
Yes.
And the inappropriate dating or sexual contact.
That's just, come on now.
It's all ridiculous to me.
Right.
It's having boundaries. Even the thing of dual relationship, right?
Yeah.
You can't have your client wash your car for you.
No.
As much as they'd probably like to.
In different cultures, I'm going back to law and ethics, bartering is a thing in different contexts and different cultures.
Sure. Well, let's get to the nitty and the gritty. When do you need to break up with your therapist?
Yeah, what are some red flags, Doug?
I would say if your therapist is talking about themselves too much, this is sort of what brought us into this question. You and I were talking about this before.
Right.
If they're just giving you advice or saying, well, here's what I do.
Yeah, this worked for me. Almost like a friggin' expert or guru or hey, this is like a life coach, you know?
I would say it's not uncommon that I've heard from other people that they'll have a feeling in therapy of, hey, wait, this is my session. Can we talk about me? And if you're feeling that or thinking that, that's not a good sign. That's absolutely a caution flag. It might be a red flag.
Right.
If you bring it up to your therapist, they might go, oh, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
If they repeat it and it happens over and over, then that might not be the right therapist for you.
And that leads me to the second one, I think, is if you bring something up to your therapist and they do not respond well, like if you don't feel safe bringing up a conflict or something that you feel is troubling to you, if they don't respond well and if they are very defensive or they don't take accountability or they're not willing to be flexible with you.
Or I'll say this, if they have a judgment.
Well, gosh, if anything, therapy needs to be non-judgmental.
I don't know that I agree. I'm just kidding. I'm being judgmental.
I'm squinting so hard.
I have had therapists contact me and say, hey, I'd like to transition this client over to you because they brought in something that I can't really work with. I'm having too much transference or countertransference, whatever it might be.
Or not my expertise. Yeah.
Right. Not my expertise for sure. Mm-hmm. If you're out of your scope or you can tell that this therapist doesn't really get this.
Yeah.
Okay. In the case that I'm thinking of, it was somebody who is a mother, had a young child.
A baby.
Yeah, a baby. That's what they're called.
Okay. Yeah.
And the client that they were working with was talking about things that were happening in the relationship where there was like verbal conflict and it got physical with the couple, but the baby was around for that. And this therapist was having a real reaction to that.
Yeah.
And she realized, I can't work with this client because I'm feeling too much judgment.
Yeah, there's too much coming up for me in the session. Yeah.
Right.
Cool.
You know what comes up for me?
What?
This session.
This whole entire session.
See how I did that?
Great
the abrupt segue.
Okay, so here's the thing. Check us out on social media. Bing us, Yahoo us, email us. What else am I missing, Doug?
Who are we?
Look us up on OnlyFans. Do whatever you have to do to find us, stalk us, ask us questions, and
how do they
stay
do
tuned.
That? Where do they find us?
Oh, at your.mental.breakdown.
Yeah, with no question mark, but you can just have that tone in your voice.
Is it .com?
Well, we are yourmentalbreakdown.com.
Your mental without the periods.
Correct.
Yourmentalbreakdown.com. And on Instagram and other social media platforms, it would be your.mental.breakdown.
That sounds good. Again, without the question mark at the end, but I appreciate.
You've made fun of me before and other millennials before for doing that, right?
Oh yeah, what do they call it?
For
the
like
uptalk?
That inflection that's like at the end. I don't know.
I think it's called uptalk.
Maybe it's a Valley Girl thing.
Oh yeah. Speaking of which, sometimes you talk with updoc.
Like what's up, doc? Bitch. Gotcha. You can't fool me every time. No. All right, let's get into it.
All right, Doc. We will be back momentarily.
Mm-hmm.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, so hit me. Shit's getting real for you, right?
Yeah, so we just got our lease, so we finally found a spot, which is a huge stress relief and another stress pile all at the same time. So in all of it, you know me, I kind of take a step back in these big decisions and I kind of let what it is be. And that's exactly kind of how we went around this one. We've been very Boy Scout about it as far as what do we need? What's this going to do for us? Here, there, bing, bing, boom. So I think I'm really proud of myself for doing that and not emotionally just jumping into like, oh, this is where I see myself. This is where I want to be. No other options. This is a bigger picture and I promise it'll make sense. In the start of it, I put my dad on as a guarantor because in LA, every time I tried to apply for a place, I either didn't make enough, my credit wasn't good enough, this, that, the other. And so I just kind of got used to putting them on. And so I basically looked at girlfriend. I was like, yeah, like there's no way we're going to get approved on our own. Like we got to find a different spot type of thing. And so then they came back and they were like, well, let's just take them off. And I was like, I guess, like, there's no way we're ever going to get approved, like, on what I make. And so I was kind of like, I don't know if I was let down, but I was kind of bummed about it. And I was like, yeah, that's what I really wanted. And I was just kind of like, yeah. So then they came back and they're like, yeah, you're good without the guarantor. And so I called my dad back and I was like, yeah, man, like, don't really need you. Like, thanks for nothing.
Look at that smile. What's that smile about? What's going on? What's going on for you with that?
Yeah, I think this is the first time that I've really done it on my own. But when I really felt like I've been working the last 8 months, I've been doing this. I've been trying to build a savings and get our life on the road and get a stable roof over our head that we can be comfortable in. And I really felt that this is me coming into that. And I definitely pat myself on the back for the last couple of months and restarting and kind of regrouping and now getting into a place where I feel comfortable. And so it's kind of in between where it's a little bit stretching our budget. And I think that's what I meant. Like, we're going to get into it because it is a little bit above our budget. And I think that was the hard part in this process too. And I think I had a really good breakaway moment from my mom. And so I call her up and I was like, hey, Mom, like, I just need to talk this through with you. And I need a sound voice in my life that's not girlfriend, that's not dad. So I call her and she instantly starts bawling, crying. And I'm like, Mom, like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? Where is this coming from? And I come to find out that she just had a really hard day with her mom, taking her to the hospital. And like, my Nana's not the nicest. She's really nice to me because I'm the favorite and she kind of babies me. But to everybody else, she's just really, really mean. And so it went from me talking to her about this apartment and if we can afford it and if this happens and kind of planning it out the way I future trip to, oh, Mom, it's going to be okay. Like, I'm here if you need anything. Like, let's talk about it. Let's get into what you're going through. We could talk about this later. So that was kind of my breakaway moment when I really realized that I was my solitude and all of that. And I knew what was right and I knew what I wanted and I knew what we could do. And I think I was looking for reassurance from her and I didn't find it. And it felt even better to realize that I could do it on my own.
Wow. Yeah. It's a really cool shift in you. It's a theme that you and I have had for a while. When you call Mom or Dad for that matter, and I need one of them for something specific, and either they don't show up the way I needed them to, or, Mom's fucked up or Mom's this, and now I have to take care of them. So my need never gets met. And you used a word, and it's funny because it almost takes me back to you pronouncing certain words like compartmentalize, right? The word solitude, like you were like, that was like, I felt my own solitude, but you said it, and the way I heard it was almost like solid-tude.
Yeah.
I want that to be a new word. Like my solitude is me, when I rely on me. I'm not relying on Mom. I'm not looking at them disappointing me. I'm looking at where I stepped up to be that for myself. And that's huge. Right. And sometimes going back to Mom to kind of like check it out, like, hey, I just need to bounce this off you. Just need it. Oh, you're not that. Well, all right. I guess I'll bounce it off myself. But not holding that disappointment or that betrayal or that trust that means a lot to you being broken. It's, wait, I can trust myself.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. And I was just going to bring up too, when you were talking about that, two things. I liked how you said solitude. Because it's almost like a solid attitude. Yeah. It's kind of like a breakdown of two words, and I like that. And then second, I think I'm experiencing right now what it's like to kind of have both Green Beret and Boy Scout, because we definitely Boy Scouted the planning of what this is. And I'm not going to lie, I'm still anxious and I'm still worried about it, and I'm still trying to navigate these emotions as I'm going about it. But my long-term Green Beret of like, I will be okay. I am going to figure it out. Yeah. We're solid. I'm still working on that being a solid feeling. I still worry. I still am like, oh my God, how are we going to do this? How, holy shit. And I'm like, okay, we're going to figure it out.
The whole thing about Boy Scout Green Beret, when we were talking about it, it's like, it's not one or the other. It's a spectrum. And what you are discovering now about yourself is you have some choice in which mode, which gear you go into at any given point. You're talking about something that I think plays into one of your strengths, which is really cool. I'm Green Bereting it in the sense of I know I'm going to be okay, and I'm still a little anxious, so that makes me hungry. So now I got to hustle a little bit. That 24/7 mentality that you used to have, you don't need that, but it might be like, a couple hours a day for a few days a week. I got to figure out how the hell I'm going to do this. Maybe that is budgeting, financing, but it sounds like that's your wheelhouse because it will keep you hungry and keep you going.
And I think to kind of now transition into work life in the same thought process, I feel like workplace is my Boy Scout, and I kind of have all my tools there that I know and I'm comfortable and I'm boom, boom, boom. Like tomorrow I'm going to place, and that's for like this thing I've been like trying to build for the last couple of months with a friend. And it's another pressure situation that I'm feeling right now, just because now I need to get going. And I don't have the luxury of kind of taking a step back and letting it do its own thing and organically kind of coming to life. I have missed this and I love what this pressure is. I haven't finished yet. And I think it's like hanging over my head. And I think we talked about this a while ago, but I really, really, really want to finish this, and it's out of my hands. And so now I'm trying to not stress myself out and not not bring stresses back here that I don't need to. Also, to your point, it's kind of a fire in me that allows me to really get going. And so, I have weird pressures that I haven't experienced in a long time. And they're not bad, and they're not like really good where it's like, oh yeah, Doug, I'm on fire right now and I'm just knocking everything out. Like, it's kind of somewhere weirdly in between.
Yeah. I like how you're describing it. It's almost like it's actually real now. Where before that go, that this, it was you're projecting, this is what I'm supposed to look like. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And you are not that kid that needs to do that and show that. You are the kid that is actually, this is what I'm doing and this is where I'm going. We were talking about this a while back of looking at who you are, where you're going, then who's going with you. And you used to do it as who's going with me, then where are we going? And maybe who I am is defined by who's there and where I am. But what I hear you saying is, no, I know where I'm going and what I'm doing. And this guy, okay, I need it by this date. I need it. And it's not you going full on, broke my trust, so fuck it, I'm out of here. This whole thing depended on that. You let me down. Nobody's ever there for me. Those wounds we've looked at, you've worked on those in therapy. You sound much more resolved in what you're doing and how you're doing it. I don't know if you feel that, but that's what I see, especially when someone lets you down. It's not breaking you. It's not everybody that's ever let you down.
Right. As I hear you say that, I agree that I didn't just jump out and say, fuck you, like I'm done, boom, boom, boom. It was, you're right. No, I do need it here. And like, this is your job. Like, you're getting paid for this. I need you to do that. And I didn't freak out and I didn't say fuck off and I didn't do any of that. And I reached out to 2 other people that do something very similar to what he does, just in case. I have backups now. And so now I'm outsourcing to other people. And I'm really proud of myself for doing it like this too. Cause I told him that. I was like, hey man, like, I'm not mad at you, but I need this done. And so we had a good conversation. And then I got 2 more guys that are coming aboard. And so, I think the resolve there is that I'm confident enough in myself to not be let down in what they're doing, that I can think more clear in what needs to be done.
Yeah. And you can still be bummed and let down. It's not the all or nothing. Like you said, it reminds me of you and girlfriend and how you kind of navigated being together or not together, how I want her in my life. But it was more like there was a period of time where you were like, I don't want to just be done with her, put up that wall, and I don't want to just take her right back. I want to figure out how to be me and then see where she fits.
Yeah.
And then you guys got stronger. Something just hit your face. What was that?
When you said stronger, I look at this last weekend I had with my buddies and they brought their girls too. Okay, so this is going to be a little backstory and I apologize for kind of spewing a little bit. I need to unload a little bit here.
Apology accepted. Carry on.
Thank you. These are just a couple mile markers that I'll tell. It was very funny to see the dynamics of, I've seen myself in friends relationship in the long distance that I do. And I've also seen myself in relationships that other friends had in pieces of what me and girlfriend have had in our relationship. What I've experienced is that we have had struggles and we've gone through hard times. It's not that we've gone through a fight and been okay. It's we've literally gone through hard times.
Right.
And we've came out stronger for it. And I really saw that this last weekend of the dynamics within the relationships. And so it was just a fun dynamic to see where I was with girlfriend in our relationship right now. It's been really fun to choose her every day and to see what that relationship is. And now going back to day one of having good days leads to good weeks, leads to good months, leads to good years. I feel like I'm really living that with her right now. It was a really good reset for me of a mile marker and where I'm at in our relationship right now.
Yeah. I love how you said that. I choose her every day. I would almost ask, oh, cool. And does she choose you every day? But in a sense, it doesn't matter because you're looking at what your choice is. Maybe we don't see it in friend and his relationship. We've seen it in some of yours, and I don't see it now, which is that codependence. Right. What you were describing now with your relationship as it is I mean, we're definitely doing things together, but I'm choosing her individually every day.
Mm-hmm.
I will put a pin in this because I'll challenge, are you choosing yourself? I'm going to come back to that.
Wait.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Because I was literally, when you were saying, are you choosing, like you're choosing her, I was like, and I'm choosing myself, Doug, and I'm choosing myself. Check this out. So the first night friend got into town, I closed that night. So I got up at like 9:30, didn't get home till 10. So it was kind of late. Girlfriend took the next morning off. And so long story short on that one, we're driving home and she was like, yo, I'm pretty tired. Like, I don't really want to go. And she kept hinting at, yo, you better stay here tonight with me. You know, like you should stay here with me. You know, I'm like, no, I'm going to see a friend. You can come. I want you there. Please come. But I am not staying here tonight. I want you there, but you can do whatever you want. You know, and so I 100% chose myself in that moment. And I knew she wasn't happy. And usually, and maybe not usually, but past tense, past Drew, maybe a year or two ago, Drew would have been like, oh my God, you're upset. Like, how can I make this better? Like, I'll stay here. Can I go get you some ice cream? It's not that I didn't care about her feelings, and her feelings were 100% valid. Like, I was tired too. And I wanted to go see my boy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you were okay with her 10% disappointment. Right? Mm-hmm. I love that you jumped in with that because that's something. All right, I'll take the pin out and we'll hit it because we're here. We can go back to the relationship if we want and what we were talking about before. Yeah. But this, I like where we're going with this. And there's something about this I've been thinking about for you, that idea of choosing myself. You've been, man, on a great journey and trajectory of thinking about yourself, not doing it for others, not feeling valued because of the value I give to others, but feeling it in yourself. I hear that more and more from you almost week to week, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The worry is that with baby on the way, not just the mother of my child and who's carrying my child, but the actual child. What we've talked about before, we're finding some true purpose in your life. You having some joy and some purpose and some meaning in your life, that can entirely become the kid. Mm-hmm. And so we lose a sense of ourself because we're taking care of the kids so much. And thinking about how your parents were not present the way you would want them to be, you being uber present the way they never were for your kid, to the detriment of the individual that you are.
Right. So I've been thinking about this too. I think it's going to take real life experience to really answer what this is. But my thought process on it is, okay, going back to our relationship, I think that's the best thing about our relationship. I allow myself to be me in our relationship, but she really supports me in who I am in our relationship and allows me to do these kind of things where I've had other relationships where this would never fly. And so, like, shout out to her for allowing me to kind of do what I need to do today, tomorrow, the next day, as it comes, you know, to be able to build this life that we both want. I think back to my dad, and it's taken me a long time to understand why he would go on so many business trips and this and that, the other, and my mom would be home and all of that. I don't know how I'm going to be once that baby comes. I don't think I'm going to want to stay home 24/7 because it's just not the kind of person I am. And I think a lot more about what I'm doing and where I'm going and why, and being fully supported in that and not feeling guilty of like, oh, well, I'm out working. I should be at home with the baby.
That's growth. I don't want to say it's new because you've been doing that, but that even you just saying like, yeah, not staying home with the baby 24/7 because that's not who I am. There's a version of you not that long ago that would have.
Yeah.
And I think you've walked through a lot of that, you know, with how you've been healing from your mom not being present the way you wanted her to. And your dad, for that matter. Two things I'm worried about. One, I don't want to be my mom, just numbing out. And two, I don't want to be my dad, always working and never present.
Right.
And for where you are now and how you're talking, it's like, that sounds distant. It doesn't sound like you currently are being influenced by that wound. We will always have that wound, you know, the little Drew in you. was not just disappointed, but was hurt, was scared, couldn't get his need met, didn't know where to find it. That's where we didn't like being alone in the world. Okay. I don't hear that in you right now. That wound is still there. Those feelings, yes, they happened, but you're not carrying that. You're finding where you really want to be and where you are naturally.
Yeah. And I got another really good one for you as we're talking about that too. Good time to throw a friend in the mix. First and foremost, I mean, obviously, I love him and I'd do anything for him. And so I was like, hey, bro, like, I'm just in town. Like, want to come say hi real quick. Like, if you're not too busy, just want to swing by. He's like, yeah, bro, for sure. Haven't seen you in forever. Like, come on. It didn't feel the same as it used to. As like when I'd walk in and like we were like super tight, like I didn't see him in a couple of months, and call it time, call it distance, call it whatever you want. And I was like, okay, like that's fine. So now we were talking about bird feeders because it's something that me and him just enjoy, like watching hummingbirds and watching the sunset, and something that we have in common and kind of talk about pretty often. And so I ended up buying him like a little bird feeder, right? And so I sent it to him, but he didn't say anything about the hummingbird feeder that I got him. And so I bring that up because I think that's exactly what we were talking about, of like, I do want the acknowledgement of something that we shared together, and me knowing that about him and him reciprocating what that is. And maybe it's just a thank you, or just, oh man, like I know I like these, so thanks for thinking of me, something in that world. And I wasn't like, oh my God, me and friend aren't friends anymore. Like, he doesn't like me. We're not, I can never talk to him again. So I think that was a good mile marker for me, of like having one of my best friends kind of displace my caring for them.
Okay, there's one piece I want to hit in addition to it. What I'm hearing is I wasn't fishing for, I didn't need anything from him with me sending that out. So that's growth. And I say it with this look on my face because of that. Yeah, right. I know. I see you seeing me. That other piece of, can I check in without it having so much weight? Like, yo, did you get that hummingbird feeder I sent you? Right. And you're not saying it to guilt trip him. You're saying it to connect with him. The piece that I just want to hit is, there's something about the connection that's not as strong right now. Doesn't mean you don't love him, he doesn't love you. It's not that. It's just not as strong. That's the nature of a lot of friendships.
Right.
A lot of the theme for you with this stuff, with girlfriend, is it's not all or nothing anymore like it used to be.
Right.
It's not all Green Beret or all Boy Scout. It's no, there's a little bit in between. That's where I live. In between. Yeah.
And it feels good there. I think back to the peaks and valleys, and the two conversations that I remember us having, of one being like, no, I just want a constant flat line. And then the other is enjoying the peaks and the valleys and what that is. I almost feel like I'm walking through the peaks and valleys on a bridge. Because it's like, I am very consistent in, oh yeah, that's a peak, that's pretty cool. Or, oh yeah, that's a valley. I've been there before, I know what this is. But being able to see to the next one and not getting so caught up in what that valley or what that peak is, but still being able to experience it. And I think that's what I lacked previously, is when I was in a valley, I would just look for peaks. And when I was peaking, I would just look for valleys.
Yeah. Oh man, that's great. Really. Cause that's saying a lot of what we've been talking about for a while, is I'm actually in the experience for the experience. You were never really present for your own experience of something. And the peaks and valleys, I don't know that you have a bridge going through it. I think you're actually going through peaks and valleys and going, oh, it's okay. I can be down a little low and feel this. That's the missing piece. It's going through it. Then I want to share that with somebody, and I want to hear about their peaks and valleys. Yeah. They don't need to share mine all the time, and I don't need to join theirs.
I have been focused on myself, and I think I mentioned it like 6 months ago of, okay, I'm done focusing on myself. I want to get back to seeing other people and focusing on them. And I still feel some of that being true. I think I can now focus on myself and other people simultaneously. Now I just want to really get back to the other people aspect of what that is. Cause I think that's another place I really flourish. in being there for people the way, how do I say that? Because as I was thinking, it didn't really make sense. No, it did make sense. It was just selfish.
Well, say it that way. Let's see.
Well, I was going to say something like, I think I'm really good at being there for people the way I think people should be there for people. But then I second guess that, because what if my parents thought the same thing when I was growing up?
This is where the beauty of life is that someone else can communicate to us. You don't have to guess and wonder all this stuff just in your head yourself. It's interesting because people will give you what they want sometimes their way, and it's not necessarily yours. When I go through, a difficult time and I'll talk to my sister about something, she used to say, well, at least it wasn't this. Well, it could be worse. It could have been this. Like I'll say something like before I left Boulder to drive back to LA, I bailed in the ice in the driveway, just walking. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to wear the spikes. I'm just walking in the mailbox. No big deal. Ate it on the ice, smacked my tailbone real bad right before a 16-hour drive, right? That was gnarly. And I'm telling her about it. And she was like, well, at least you didn't break anything. It could have been worse. And I said, yeah, it also could have not happened at all. I think it happened and I'm just bummed.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, right. And she got it. She likes and she feels better when people say to her, well, at least you didn't break anything. It could have been worse. You could have had to go to the hospital, been in a cast and couldn't make the drive. And okay, that helps her. She feels better that way. Doesn't help me. It doesn't validate my experience. All I want is, oh man, that sucks. So you had to do the drive with a bruised tailbone? Yeah. Yeah, that feels good. So she was giving me her what she likes and what feels good for her. Right? Mm-hmm. So you saying I show up to people the way I want them to show up for me. Yeah. What I've learned though is with my sister, if I just say, if she's like, oh man, such and such happened. And I'm like, oh man, that's really rough. Mm-hmm. Doesn't help her as much as me going, yeah, so-and-so happened, but at least such and such didn't happen. So I learned to do and show up for her the way she wants. And she's learned to show up the way that I want, even though it's not how we prefer it to be for ourselves.
Yeah. And so my question for that is, obviously your sister, that's an intimate relationship that's taken years, right? Like years.
Sure.
And so what about like surface level relationships that I don't want to be so inner circle, but I still want to show up for them empathetically, right?
I'll tell you mine in a second, but let's hear yours.
I think I know the answer to it, and I don't know if it's the answer I want, but I think just listening, and being there with them in whatever that moment is, you'll hear the answer while they're talking. And I think the second is kind of generically being empathetic, and I don't know if that really works, because I don't think you can be generic empathy.
Right. I love what you're saying, because I think you're on the right track entirely. I'm an empathetic person, so I will be empathetic generically. Mm-hmm. How do I do it specifically for them? You're very close, I think, and it could work to just listen and you'll hear it. What I hear you saying is they need to tell me what it is, how they want me to show up. If I listen, I'll probably hear it. Or I could ask. And you could even ask by virtue of saying what works for you, but going, hey, what works for you though? That's one of the questions that's, I think, so great. And sometimes people can't answer is, what would be supportive to you right now? I'd love to do that for you. And it's something that you know well, because you've said it. I don't want somebody to ask me that. I want them to just do it. But if we're talking about it's not your sister you've known for decades, it's like you said, not that intimate relationship, surface level, how do I do that? Yeah, you ask.
I think we could talk about this for a whole nother session, because I got a lot turning into my brain. I feel disingenuine when I'm being genuine in that way of like, hey, how can I show up for you? What do you need right now? How can I do this with you? A lot of the times it's no, I'm fine, or no, I got this, and then I got to do the digging I think I play a twofold story on like not trying to pry things out of people, but also allowing them to show up where they want me to show up. I think it's difficult in finding that gear when I feel like I'm in a certain gear as far as showing up for people.
Yeah. And I hear that as if they tell you what they need and you're in a different gear, do you have to abandon your gear to go into theirs? The answer is no.
Right.
You can validate what they need without giving it to them.
Yeah.
You're not prying it out of them. You're just going like, yo, I would really love to support you in this. I don't know how you like support. Like what's helpful for you? I don't know. Like, okay, well, I can just kind of be here and hang with you for a minute, or I'll try, what's helpful for me. If it doesn't feel helpful, let me know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, your heart and your intention are in the right place. Cool.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hell
yeah.
Man, it's
a good start.
Yeah. It's not just a good start. It's just good, period. You're grooving.
Yeah.
And it's a good start to, in another 6 months when the kid comes along that you've established yourself.
Right.
You're not going to abandon everything that you need for the kid.
Right. Yeah.
Or the relationship. Right? You're getting a lot more well-rounded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel that.
And we're back.
Hi, Doug.
Oh, hi, Kenzie.
Welcome back.
Oh, thanks. I never left. I was there the whole session.
That's true. I was right here. I've been here too.
Really?
Yeah, actually, I was staring into your session from the window, listening on everything.
Can you imagine?
So I was there too.
Right.
Just kidding. That's a joke. Okay. Love how he starts. I think I'm really proud of myself.
Yeah.
And I was like, you think?
Right?
Or are you?
Right?
I'm surprised you didn't catch that, Doug. Truly, I feel like that's such a you thing to say. Like, oh, you think you're really proud of yourself?
Uh-huh.
No, you are really proud of yourself.
Right.
Anyway.
And, building on the gold stars that we were talking about last week with him.
Yes.
Right? This is him
his
going,
gold star.
I think I'm proud of myself. I think I should give myself a gold star. Pretty much, right?
Totally.
Pretty cool.
His internal gold stars.
Yep.
We got another phone call with Mom. And this one is different, but similar to, I think, phone calls he's had before, where it's kind of coming up again. Like, oh, yeah, sometimes these calls are not going to be what I would have wanted them to be or needed them to be. And just a lesson in like, okay, you can't always rely on people in every moment.
Right.
Oh, this is it. Is this the thing that you love? Solitude?
Oh, no? But
Okay, so there are multiple hot moments in this session, clearly, because Doug is excited, y'all. He
used a term that I was like, oh, I love that.
And it's not solitude.
It's not solitude, but that was solid. I like that a lot. It was the phone call. Too. The way that he talked about the phone call, he was like, I had a breakaway moment with my mom.
Oh, breakaway moment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So implying that individuation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tell me more.
That came. I mean, you just said it. I don't need to say anymore.
Oh,
Boom,
okay,
mic drop.
Cool.
I mean, he literally just said, I had a really good breakaway moment with my mom or from my mom, right?
From my mom.
And then he talks about the phone call that you were just referencing. Oh, dude, that's awesome. Because he's using his own language for saying, I am growing. I am individuating. I'm becoming my own person.
Yeah. And it feels good because I can also enjoy my solitude, which to him is kind of a solid attitude.
That's right.
Cool. It's like that internal gold star, the internal compass that we're trying to develop. Sweet. I don't know why this is in my notes. It just says sometimes anxiety is necessary to help us plan and problem solve. So we're not trying to get rid of it all the time. What does that even mean? I don't know where that came from. So that's it.
I mean, that's true. I'll say that anxiety isn't always a negative thing. It can spring us into action. It can get us going. And
well, yeah, that's like its necessity. But I don't know where that came from the session. I don't know why I didn't signify.
Part of what we were talking about was him when he was talking about work and getting into the good pressure of creating his own brand or his own line.
Okay, maybe it was that.
Doing that with other people. And another breakaway moment, I think, for him was not getting mad at other people for not delivering things. It was just kind of going, hey, I know where I'm going and I know this, it's cool. I'm doing this thing and I'm in this hustle. Cool. That's sort of maybe a little bit of where you got the anxiety of like,
I don't know where.
Yeah. And it's something where he feels good when he's in that hustle, in that positive anxiety of being proactive.
There's like good stress sometimes. He has mentioned that before. That's good stress and the hustle, almost like a flow state, right? When people feel like they're in it and it's working.
Yeah.
Okay, here's my devil's advocate. Ready?
Bring it.
So this is not formulated, so work with me. But I think we mentioned this last time, that who's going with me, then where am I going, right?
Yep.
As opposed to now where it's like, where am I going and who's going with me?
Right.
I understand it on a surface level. Yeah, we want to have that internal compass, right? And feel like ourselves. And then, okay, this is where I'm going. Who's coming with me?
Uh-huh.
I think I mentioned this before, but how do we prevent maybe having too rigid of expectations, or like, hey, this is where I'm going. So y'all are with me or you're against me, right? Like you're either coming with me or you're not. Is there a balance to be had there so that it's not backfiring and not making people separate more from us because we're like, fuck everything. It's all about me and this is where I'm going and I'm an individual. I'm Mr. Independent or Mrs.
No.
What was the question? What are we saying no to?
I am sarcastically saying no to you, but the reality is you answered your question.
I did.
Yeah,
okay.
You did.
There has to be a balance.
There is a balance. The idea is not being all or nothing, not being like, either you're with me or without me. Bye.
Which is what he was already doing, right?
Well, and for the last several sessions with this, we've been talking about, a lot of his growth is not being all or nothing, not being black or white.
Yeah, that comes a lot. Yeah.
It comes up a lot, and it's something where, so the piece about not being black or white, not being all or nothing for him is not looking at either you're with me and I love you and it's great, or you're against me and I'm cutting you out and bye.
Okay.
Which is sort of like what he did with his girlfriend when she did him dirty, as he would say, right?
Yeah.
So learning how to not do that for relationships, great. So I also push at that with, can you choose yourself? Can you choose you and your direction and where you're going, instead of just people pleasing and making sure that you're keeping other people happy so you continue to go there together.
And maybe despite your feelings and needs.
Right. And despite the direction you want to go in, despite that, you'll go along with keeping other people happy and where they want to go, and you'll sacrifice what you actually want and where you actually want to go.
Right. And I think this is where like context is important, right? Because he does have a history of people pleasing, as a lot of people do. But if you're not, historically a people pleaser, then maybe this would backfire and it would be a little rigid and different. But because he has that history, it's like, okay, let's take a step back and look at what your needs are too. And your needs are just as important as everybody else's, and your values. And
being able to ask for it and then not getting it, not being the shutdown goodbye. We were hitting that, and I was saying that back to him and just kind of going, and somebody might let you down. And if they let you down, that's not everybody that's ever let you down, and you've got to put up that wall all over again. I love that he said, as I hear you say that back, I agree. I don't just like go, screw you, fuck you, I'm out, boom, boom, bye. He's kind of like, oh, right, you're right, I'm not doing that. Yeah.
Whoa. And that's on progress.
Right.
So there's a point that I really liked where you're like, wait a minute, I just want to make sure that you're choosing yourself, right? And he was like, wait, yes, I was going to say that. I am choosing myself, right?
Yeah.
I kind of loved that.
Yep.
Oh, wait, we talked about this last time. I hope this came up in the previous session, because the worry, I put that in quotes. The worry is that when the baby comes, blah, 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 blah. Yep. So maybe we talk about it again in this one.
It's, me and repetition. I keep pushing
maybe
these
that's
things,
it, right? Doug, because sometimes I feel like these sessions have so many similar themes, but I think that's just how therapy works.
I think that's partly how therapy works, because we need to train our brains. We need to kind of reiterate these new trails that we're creating, these new neural pathways. You need to have repetition to get them to be more second nature, or just more natural, as opposed to saying the same dad joke over and over and over again.
Right.
Don't give me that look. I see that look.
That would absolutely kill somebody.
I see that look.
That's when you know to break up with your therapist. When they say the same dad joke over and over again, and you're not even laughing. If you're not laughing in therapy, get out of there. I'm only half kidding about that.
If you're not laughing, you're crying.
Right. Well, yeah. A little bit of both is good.
That's right.
Okay, question for you.
Yes?
And this is an interesting one, perhaps, if I do say so myself.
I like the not interesting ones you have.
Would you ever consider bringing his partner into a session / have you ever done that just to like get the vibes, get the real picture of the dynamic and what her perspective is on things?
To get the vibes and to get the dynamic, no, I would not bring somebody in for that purpose. No.
Okay. Why not?
Because I'm going with what the client's presenting me. If they want to bring their partner in to show me the vibe and the dynamic, that's different.
Okay.
But I would not go,
you wouldn't.
I really want to see your dynamic with your partner. Can you bring your partner in? Not a chance. I would never do that.
Really? Okay.
Never. Nope. I would follow the client, or I might suggest, or I might say, hey, I want to make sure I get the full picture of your dynamic with your partner. Can you tell me a little more about this? And I would go about it that way.
Okay.
If they're saying, some things are really hard to say to my partner, sometimes we don't communicate great, then I would scratch at that and go, okay, are we talking about the two of you and how you communicate and the issue that comes up in the relationship? Because that's for a couples counselor. Or are we talking about there are things that you have problems saying, or you aren't feeling supported and you need to somehow find a good way to say that to your partner and you feel safer in here?
Right. Is it more of an individual versus a couples thing?
Totally. And I have worked with a couple and then worked with an individual. I've worked with an individual and then seen the couple for a while. I've done that before for sure.
Yeah.
So would I ever do this? Yes. It's very circumstantial. You have to know the circumstance. You have to know the context. You have to know the client, and you have to have a good awareness of what you're doing.
Okay.
Because you don't want to create that sort of alliances, or somebody is bringing their partner in so they can say, see, even my therapist agrees, so I'm right. See, that's not what you want.
Okay. So in this case, is that your reasoning? Like you wouldn't do it because you'd worry that, not that I don't think Drew is trying to do this or to be like, hey, I need her to see that, my perspective or whatever, but more so I just get curious about what the other person in the relationship is thinking and doing, because we only get our individual client's perspective, which is going to be warped. It's going to be skewed a little bit. That's just kind of the nature of how it works.
Part of it is satisfying my own curiosity. I would not do that.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
So the answer to that is no.
Okay.
And for Drew in particular, he's had something in the past with an old girlfriend. We've talked about this, where he had night terrors.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And he would need to tell her everything about what a night terror is, why he has it, what was going on, so she could know everything about that.
Super enmeshed.
Right. Super enmeshed. So I would not want to bring a partner in to quote unquote educate them about him and the night terrors, for example. Right. Yeah. And fast forward to his relationship with this girlfriend, he did say, yeah, it was crazy. I had night terrors, and I would just say, oh yeah, it's something I get. They're night terrors. And he didn't feel like I needed to tell her everything about that.
Yeah.
So he's got this issue where in the past, when we've worked on it, needing that enmeshment piece, needing them to know everything about me. Like, okay, so if he wanted to bring her in for that, I would challenge that before I just went, yeah, okay, bring her in.
Right. Okay. So context is important. And in this context, in this case, would not be beneficial.
Correct.
Most likely.
Correct.
Because he is actively working on individuation or like independence. And so maybe it would backfire in that way.
In that way, yes. Do I think they would benefit from a couples therapist? Probably.
Absolutely,
I think just about everybody would.
Sure.
Especially if they're going to be having a baby. Yeah. I'm not going to spoiler tell you what happens when they actually have the baby, because I know a year later what's going on.
Ooh, but I'm so curious, Doug.
Well, I can certainly say that when a baby comes, the dynamic shifts incredibly. Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And it becomes very, very hard to nurture the relationship among the partners.
Yeah. And that happens with, oh my gosh, I don't have kids, but I assume and I see it in other people who have kids, like their relationship is just, I don't want to say takes a nosedive, but the dynamic totally changes and everything becomes about the kids.
Yeah. And sometimes for good reason. I think there's a big and that could happen. Sometimes it's a little and. It is all about the kid, the baby in the beginning, and it needs to be about the partnership too.
Yeah. Speaking of different types of partnerships, we get a little bit of his friend.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I won't say, we're not saying the name, but sometimes we just feel disconnected from people. And he's talking about his friend in this way, right? Like it's a temporary, just, I know he loves me. We're bros, but, I just felt, and I think this was the bird feeder
thing,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
And it's kind of similar to the mom stuff, right? In that, like, I want that overextension of love. I want them to really appreciate me and give me those gold stars. Like, tell me that you got that gift and that you loved it and that we're still close.
Right.
But I kind of like this. It's not a super long moment that we hit on it, but it's just, Yeah, I think it's important for like a 20-something-year-old to realize like friendships are going to look different in adulthood, and becoming an individual and relying on yourself more. That's going to make friendships look a little different. You might not see each other for months, but you still will feel connected, or maybe you feel a little disconnected, and that's okay too. That's just the phases of life.
And friendships, and they kind of have these peaks and valleys, as he said, which we'll get into in a second. But what you don't know is that this friend and he have had things like this come up previously. So there's a history of their interactions with gifts.
Oh, okay.
And we talked about love languages and gift giving or gift receiving and what that's like. And he'd be like, oh man, I wanted to get him, one session where it was like, oh, these shoes would be great on him. I wanted to get him these shoes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't know that was this friend.
That's
but yes.
this friend.
Okay.
And this friend is mild celebrity, so he gets a lot of free stuff.
Okay.
And for Drew, it was like, I wanted to give him something too. I wanted him to know it came from me. And like, that's not what it was about.
No, it didn't like hit right the way that he wanted it to.
And eventually it did. And this friend came around for him when he was sick. And it was like, yeah, let's just play 2K, in NBA. Right.
Yes.
And it was like, yeah, let's just hang out. Like, that's cool. That's all I need. And this one, what he was saying to me was calling back that thing of the shoes or giving him a hoodie where it was like, know what?
Yeah.
I gave him this hummingbird feeder. I gave him this, wow, that's a twister.
That was gummy.
I gave him this hummingbird feeder and I didn't get the thank you to reaffirm our friendship. And you know what? I wasn't fishing for it.
Right. And I didn't catastrophize it.
Right. And I kind of gave him the next level bit, which is, and you can check in without the weight of all the history of my disappointment.
And this is where I was going too, is that feeling, because he catches himself and he's like, thinking he's selfish, like, am I showing up to people the way that I want to be showed up to, right? Or like he's really going through that, which I think we've all gone through. So I really related to this or resonated with it. Like, you don't have to guess, people's love language or the way that they want to be loved and connected with, right? Like, just ask them or trust what they're saying to you. If they give you information, people play a role in relationships. We all play a role in relationships. Like, it's that interdependent. Okay, we both have to express our needs and ask. Like, we both have the responsibility, I guess, of sharing our feelings and expressing our needs and getting our needs met. It's not just about the other person, like, reading our minds and vice versa.
Exactly. I mean, that was my note. That was my note here. It's not just a guessing game or mind reading, right?
Relieves so much pressure, I think.
Totally does.
Oh my God. In every relationship, couples, kids and parents, friendships, like, we can't read each other's minds.
No. And that's a sign, I think, possibly of codependence. When you want somebody to read your mind and you won't say something to them or tell them what's going on because they should read your mind.
Right. And you have that expectation that, like, they need to know me. They should know me at this point, right?
Which is what Drew used to have, why he needed to tell somebody about the night terrors and everything that it means and all of this. They need to know everything about me, right? And just that idea of, wow, they can't read your mind and they're never going to get in your mind.
No, they're not you. You can never be as enmeshed as you think or hope to be, right? And no matter how close or how long you have been with that person, there are still things to learn. You're never going to know everything about somebody else.
Right.
Because we're always changing too.
Right.
So this conversation reminded me too, because you're talking about your sister and I'm like, I wonder how she would feel about what you said, because maybe that's different for her now, right? Like, maybe it was just that circumstance or that time period in her life, right? But now maybe it would look different. And I don't know if that's true, but just using it as an example, like, these conversations are open dialogue, like consent, all of it. Like, it's always an ongoing conversation. Like, what is it like for you now? What do you want now in this circumstance?
Yeah. And look, my sister, who love my sister, shout out, her. Right? Yes. And she's also a therapist and she's known me all of my life. I've known her almost all of hers. right?
Give or take. Yeah.
Give or take a couple of years. Right. And we've gone through a lot of different stages, a lot of different ways of relating to each other. And the example I gave, I thought, was a very poignant one with what he was talking about.
Did
right?
you, Doug?
I did.
I'm just kidding. Good for
because it was about, how do we find support? I mean, it's what we were talking about before, like showing up the way we need. For my sister, something that felt good for her was when people would say things like, oh, at least this, or it could have been worse, which to me is sympathy.
I know, it's
not
interesting,
empathy.
right? Because some people would have such an aversive reaction to that, which you do. Yeah.
I do. I like somebody going, oh, that really sucks. Oh, yeah, I hate when that happens.
Yeah,
you
more
know?
validation.
Right, because that's the example I gave was when I literally, I think the morning before I'm leaving Boulder on a 16-hour drive, I slip in the driveway, smack my tailbone.
Ow.
And it was.
Did you break it or no?
No, it didn't break.
Oh, it was at least it wasn't broken.
Right, perfect,
right.
perfect. Because my sister's comment was, at least it wasn't broken. Like, yeah, and it still freaking hurt. And I had to drive 16 hours in a car with a bruised tailbone.
Yeah.
So that didn't feel good. And we talked about that. And she was like, oh. And my sister, incredibly insightful, was just like, oh, right. I like when people say that. So that feels good to me.
Aww.
And I realize you don't like that. Okay, cool. Like,
what the heck? That's so cool.
Right?
A lot of siblings don't have that.
I mean, we've got a great relationship and it educated both of us because it got me to be heard and she could go, cool. All right. And in the future, since that time, she has caught herself when she does the sympathy, not empathy piece. And she'll go, oh, this. We'll even joke about it. And like, I might tell her something that happened and she'll go, oh, that sucks. And then I'll go, at least this. And it's funny. Right?
Yeah.
And when she needs something, I'll throw some of that to her because if I just say, "Oh, that sucks," I hate when that happens. That doesn't feel good for her.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
This is why I love. This sounds so stupid. This is why I love relationships. But like, I love like that relationships are so healing and so enriching. Like we learn through relationships, through relating to others and that mirror that we always talk about, right? Like you're learning about yourself in that instance just as much as she's learning about her.
Totally.
And that's so freaking cool. And Drew's doing that exact same thing. The way I kind of wrapped this up was like, yeah, you try, you fuck up maybe, you learn and you try again and you keep adjusting and it's an ongoing conversation.
And you don't shut somebody out and write them off because they're not reading your mind or they're not doing this, and I love it that he was saying it's the peaks and valleys of this stuff. It's the 10% Boy Scout or 10% Green Beret. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We're all just doing this. These relationships are not static.
No, we're all just out here trying to like be human, It's rough.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Aww.
Not to be a full-blown pessimist.
And that is exactly what it's about. It's the and.
Yes.
It's you can be yourself, you can focus on yourself and other people. Right. Somebody can be disappointing and be really, enriching and wonderful. Yeah, it's all of those things.
He is very much steeped and stewed and brewing in the dialectics, like this ginger tea I'm sipping on.
When you don't inhale it, it's really nice.
It is really nice when you don't inhale tea. Don't recommend. Don't do that.
And if you would like some tea, feel free to pour yourself a cup of tea and come back with us.
I thought you were going to say, if you want some tea, tune in next week where we gossip about blah, 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 blah. Because, that's what tea means. Tea.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Great. Millennial jokes.
There you go.
They don't land on the old man.
I don't dislike millennials.
I don't dislike millennials. Okay. The double negative, was getting at me. Okay. So you like them, kind of, is what I hear in that. Okay.
Well, you're putting on the kind of. I'm just saying I don't dislike.
I'm feeling something in my heart right now as you say that.
Oh.
It's hurt. It's offense.
Is it? Oh.
Because I'm representing millennials here, Doug.
Well, you as a representative of a millennial are not offensive to me.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm not offensive. Do we hear that? Thank God.
I feel like a few weeks ago I gave you a nice compliment, so I'm just trying to backhand it now.
That's good. Yeah, you got to go back and forth a little bit.
Yeah, it's the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, exactly. Inflate the ego, pop the balloon,
That's right. And if you guys want to come back and peak our valleys, then
oh God,
go for it. What? I don't know what that means.
Peak our valleys. Oh, right.
Take a peek at our valleys?
No.
Is that better?
No, it's giving like voyeurism or something. So tune in next week where we don't talk about this anymore and we talk about something entirely different.
That's right.
Cool.
Tune in next week to hear whatever. Oh God, we are unraveling.
We're really bad at this.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.